Welcome to War Bios, the podcast where we delve into the most pivotal battles in history, and I'm your host, General Biography. Today, we're going to explore one of the most significant conflicts in ancient Roman history, the Battle of the Milvian Bridge. This epic clash, fought on October 28, 312 AD, would change the course of Roman history, cementing the legacy of one of its most renowned emperors and marking a turning point in the fortunes of the Western world. The Roman Empire, once the epitome of power and stability, was now plagued by civil wars, corruption, and external pressures. The empire had been divided into eastern and western halves, with multiple claimants vying for control. Amidst this chaos, two prominent figures emerged: Constantine, the ambitious and cunning ruler of Gaul and Britain, and Maxentius, the ruthless and power-hungry emperor of Italy and Africa. Constantine, a skilled military leader, had been expanding his territories through a series of victories in Gaul and Britain. His reputation as a just and fair ruler had earned him the loyalty of his troops and the admiration of his people. In contrast, Maxentius was notorious for his brutality and extravagance, relying on the support of the Roman Senate and the Praetorian Guard to maintain his grip on power. The catalyst for this conflict was the death of Maxentius's father, Maximian, who had been co-emperor with Constantine's father, Constantius Chlorus. This event triggered a chain reaction of alliances and rivalries, ultimately leading to the outbreak of war between Constantine and Maxentius. In the summer of 312 AD, Constantine began his march towards Rome, determined to confront Maxentius and claim the throne for himself. His army, comprising seasoned veterans from Gaul and Britain, was a formidable force, well-trained and equipped for battle. As they approached the city, they encountered numerous obstacles, including treacherous terrain, hostile tribes, and Maxentius's own armies. Meanwhile, Maxentius was preparing to defend his capital, fortifying the city walls and assembling a massive army of his own. The Roman Senate, eager to maintain their influence and power, had thrown their support behind Maxentius, providing him with significant financial and military resources. Despite these advantages, Maxentius's position was precarious, as his rule was resented by many Romans, who saw him as a tyrant and a usurper. As the two armies drew closer, the atmosphere grew increasingly tense. Constantine's troops were driven by a sense of purpose and conviction, while Maxentius's forces were motivated by a desire to protect their emperor and maintain their grip on power. As the two armies converged on Rome, Constantine's forces approached the city from the north, while Maxentius's troops were deployed behind the fortified walls of the city. On October 28, 312 AD, the armies clashed at the Milvian Bridge, a strategic crossing point over the Tiber River just north of Rome. The battle began with a series of skirmishes between the two armies, as Constantine's cavalry probes attempted to disrupt Maxentius's lines. The Roman emperor, confident in his superior numbers and fortified position, had deployed his troops in a defensive posture, anchored on the banks of the Tiber. However, Constantine's tactical genius soon became apparent as he cleverly exploited the weaknesses in Maxentius's deployment. Constantine's army, largely composed of veteran infantry from Gaul and Britain, formed a dense phalanx formation which allowed them to present a wall of shields to the enemy while advancing steadily towards the bridge. Meanwhile, his cavalry, comprising lightly armored but highly mobile horsemen, outflanked Maxentius's positions, threatening to encircle his army. The Roman emperor, realizing too late the danger posed by Constantine's maneuver, attempted to redeploy his troops to face the new threat. As the battle raged on, the tide began to turn in favor of Constantine's forces. The Milvian Bridge, a narrow and precarious crossing point, became a bottleneck, funneling Maxentius's troops into killing zones where they were cut down by Constantine's infantry. The Roman emperor's army, weighed down by their heavy armor and hindered by the treacherous terrain, struggled to respond effectively to Constantine's agile and adaptable tactics. According to the historian Eusebius, Constantine had a vision of the cross before the battle, which he believed was a divine sign of his impending victory. As the day wore on, Maxentius's army began to waver, its morale sapped by the relentless pressure exerted by Constantine's forces. In the late afternoon, as the sun began to set over the battlefield, Maxentius's position became increasingly desperate. His troops were being slaughtered in droves, and his lines were on the verge of collapse. In a last-ditch attempt to stem the tide of defeat, The Roman emperor led a contingent of his elite Praetorian guards in a suicidal charge against Constantine's center. The attack was bravely repelled by Constantine's infantry, who held firm against the desperate onslaught. As the Praetorians faltered and fell back, Maxentius himself became trapped in the chaos of the battlefield. According to some accounts, he attempted to flee across the Tiber but was swept away by the strong current and drowned. Others claim that he was killed in the fighting, struck down by one of Constantine's soldiers. As the dust settled on the battlefield, Constantine's forces emerged victorious, having secured a decisive triumph over Maxentius's army. The Roman emperor's demise marked the end of his regime and the beginning of a new era in Roman history. With the Battle of the Milvian Bridge concluded, Constantine turned his attention to consolidating his power and establishing a new order in Rome. In the aftermath of the battle, Constantine ordered the construction of a triumphal arch to commemorate his victory, which would later become one of the most iconic landmarks in Rome. He also took steps to secure the loyalty of the Roman Senate and the people, issuing decrees that promoted tolerance and unity throughout the empire. As the historian Eusebius noted, Constantine's actions were guided by a deep sense of conviction and a desire to create a more just and harmonious society. One of the most significant consequences of the Battle of the Milvian Bridge was the Edict of Milan, issued in 313 AD, which granted freedom of worship to all citizens of the Roman Empire. This edict marked a major turning point in the history of Christianity, as it paved the way for the spread of the faith throughout the empire. The Battle of the Milvian Bridge also had a lasting impact on the development of Western civilization. It marked the beginning of a new era in which Christianity would play an increasingly prominent role in shaping the values and institutions of European society. As the centuries passed, the legacy of Constantine's victory would be remembered as a turning point in the struggle for religious freedom and tolerance. Today, the Battle of the Milvian Bridge is remembered as one of the most pivotal moments in Roman history. The site of the battle is commemorated by a small monument, which stands as a testament to the enduring legacy of Constantine's victory. In conclusion, the Battle of the Milvian Bridge was a decisive moment in Roman history, one that marked the beginning of a new era in which Christianity would play an increasingly prominent role. The legacy of Constantine's victory continues to shape our understanding of Western civilization, reminding us of the importance of tolerance, unity, and the protection of individual rights. That's all for today's War Bios. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, I'm General Biography reminding you to keep marching toward victory.